emails, calls, or texts, please be a little bit patient, but please resend them to me, as I now have my city phone and I can now respond to you. And lastly, echoing a couple of my council members on here, you have about 20 minutes left for the water rate vote. Thank you all for being here.
Councilmember Schuler.
Yes, thank you. I hate going last. So I really feel your pain over there. But you had it handed to you on a silver platter, and you still chose not to. So, of course, as Councilmember Foreman said, I would like to welcome our newest member, Councilmember Montoya, to this team, I guess you can say. So welcome to the roller coaster. I also had on here the water rate vote that you have, as Councilmember Montoya said, about 18 minutes left to go vote tonight. So hopefully we have a positive result for infrastructure in our community. And then I would like to remind everybody that we are coming to the close of this fiscal year, and at the start of every fiscal year, council has a retreat that we talk about some of the things that we are going to put on the agenda for our committee meetings and things that we're going to discuss as we come through the next round of fiscal year. So our retreat will be in August. So if you have any issues that you would like to see one of us take up or kind of discuss as a topic that we might put forward to discuss throughout the next year, please reach out to us at our council member emails or our phone number. So we would love to hear some of the suggestions that you have to bring forward in the next calendar, or I guess fiscal year. So that's all my announcements tonight. Thanks.
Councilmember Ball.
First, I want to say congratulations to the Oklahoma Select baseball team from here in Norman, Oklahoma, who on Sunday night out at our brand new Reeves Park baseball facility won the 12 and under AA state championship. And we'll be going to Gulf Shores Orange Beach next month for the Little League World Series. So congratulations, boys, and do Norman proud. Second, I want to say how proud I am and how thankful I am for all of the citizens who continue to email myself and this council demanding changes on this city's policies that are destroying our downtown and driving businesses away and making our streets and parks unsafe. And so just keep it up. There's a lot of thugs and a lot of bullies out there who will do everything in their power to silence you. They'll get in your face, they'll yell, they'll scream, and just try to intimidate you. But if you stand tall, show that you're willing to fight, they're going to do what cowards always do, and we will take our city back. And that's all.
Thank you, sir. Mayor has nothing. Next item on the agenda is the consent docket. This item is placed on the agenda so the city council, by unanimous consent, can designate those routine agenda items that they wish to be approved or acknowledged by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all council members, then that item will be heard in regular order. Staff recommends that item 3 through item 22 be placed on the consent docket. I need a motion to place items 3 through 22 on the consent docket.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and second. The motion on the floor is to place items 3 through 22 on the consent docket. Council members, you may cast your votes.
Councilmember Montoya.
Yes.
Thank you. All votes have been cast. 3 through 22 on the consent docket passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent docket.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and second. Are there any comments from council regarding any item on the consent docket? The motion on the floor is to approve the consent docket. Council members, you may cast your votes.
Councilmember Montoya.
Yes.
Thank you. All votes have been cast and the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. Item number 23, a resolution of the Council of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, declaring a recoupment project for costs associated with the Jenkins Avenue widening project and arterial road from Imhoff to Lindsay Street. I'll entertain a motion to adopt or reject the resolution.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Somebody here to, Beth Muckala, if you will come up, please, and make a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm Beth Muckala. I'm an assistant city attorney here with the city of Norman. Well, maybe I don't need a presentation.
Maybe,
I do have challenges, but I actually,
Oh,
there we
there we
go. Maybe I just have to be very persistent. Do we have a remote clicker that might avoid my impediments here?
that's an extra fee for that.
There we go. I apologize. So I'm here to discuss declaring a recoupment project for the Jenkins Avenue 2019 bond project. This is something that many of you on the dais have heard of before, but it's a bit of a tricky concept. So especially for the benefit of new council members, I wanted to go through it a little bit. But our development, well, let's say our recoupment language is found in what is now, after recodification, Chapter 26 of our city code. Essentially, this recoupment ordinance is based off of the state statute that makes landowners responsible for improvements to the streets that abut their properties. Essentially, you own a parcel of land, you are going to benefit from that road, you're going to use that road's of particular use to you, and so that's the basis very generally for the state law. We model that in our code, and the way we enforce it through our street projects is the recoupment ordinance. And essentially what that allows us to do is do street projects all in one swoop instead of allowing streets to develop in a patchwork style, parcel by parcel, as the abutting parcels develop. So in Chapter 30, development is essentially defined based upon platting. Platting is what triggers this duty of landowners to support the streets by donating the right-of-way necessary for it and contributing to the cost of the development of that street and other public dedications. So what we can do is pocket away those amounts and, of course, do the street project all at once. The inverse of that is recoupment, where the street project comes first. And so what we do is we keep track of all these costs, and at the end of it, we allocate those. And I'll go through how that looks. But what we've included in this particular project, and it is a smaller project here parcel-wise, we don't include already platted parcels. On Jenkins, a good example is St. Thomas More. They platted recently and they dedicated right-of-way at that time. But there was one church parcel adjacent to Stinson that wasn't yet platted. That's included. And then there are 5 residential parcels unplatted that are included. They will only be subject to the recoupment obligations if and when they plat. If they stay developed just as they are, this recoupment obligation will eventually expire after 20 years. Here is a map that shows the parcels that are subject to it. The residential parcels can be found as parcels 11, 14, 15, 16, and 17, and then 19 is that little church parcel. I believe it's the parking lot right there. Here's the owner list. I should say the parcel map is Exhibit A to the resolution. Here is the list of owners that identifies who has been notified that they are subject to this. That is Exhibit B to the resolution. So what happens now, if this recoupment district is declared, we go and we do the project. We keep track of the costs, and then we allocate those costs. And the allocation is pretty straightforward. It's based on the linear foot of your frontage. However, you aren't responsible for any of the costs that are paid for with federal funds or bonds. So we keep track of that and we deduct it. And usually, from what I've seen, at the end of that, there's really not construction left to pay for in most cases. Usually what's left is the amount that we've paid to acquire the parcel. And it's the amount attributable to the land that would have been donated had they donated that at the time of platting. So if we do the project first and acquire it, when they ultimately plat, it's them paying us back for what they would have donated. Again, 100% of that pro rata obligation on the construction cost applies for the first 15 years. After that, it begins to extinguish by 20% every year until it entirely goes away after 20 years. And of course, the benefit of that is that essentially, if you've been subject to recoupment and 20 years passes, you are now free of the obligation to do that donation from platting. And we've seen some that take advantage of that because we have had this recoupment ordinance now for about 20 years. So we recommend approval of this like we have in past projects. The one I can think of most recently was 36th Avenue Northwest, before that 24th Avenue Northeast. And I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Council have any questions for Ms. Muckle? Councilmember Holman?
Thank you. Just one question, just to clarify, the existing property owners, they're not going to be financially obligated to anything unless they decided to redevelop their existing property in the future.
Exactly, and I'm glad you asked that because a lot of people mistake this recoupment obligation as a lien on the property. We've gotten very used to hearing from title companies that would like us to clarify because it's not an active monetary obligation until that platting occurs. So we're always able to let them know if you're selling to someone who plans to plat, here's what that obligation is today. But if you leave that parcel the same, right, it will not be an actual financial lien or anything on the property.
Anything else? Okay. It's an opportunity for the public to make comment on those.
We'll start with Stephen Ellis.
Steve Ellis, Ward 4. I just want to say I'm really enthusiastic about this recoupment ordinance that the city has. Sort of details aside, this is one of the ways in which the city of Norman is sort of committed to the view that if you're developing your land and it creates needs for city expenditures like expansion of roads and the like, that you should contribute the part that you pay. The idea that, and this is really part of the sort of strong towns kind of view that we've all been talking about, which is that when the city has to do things in response to build out of the city, that oftentimes is tremendously expensive, right? So when you develop new stuff in Norman, that creates new fire demand, it creates new police demand, it creates new demand on the roads, it creates new demand on the schools, it creates new demands on the water supply system, it creates new demands on the sewage system. There are all kinds of things. And it is part of state law and Norman's ordinance system that development should pay its own way. And this is one of the ways in which we do that. I mean, I wish we would adhere to that principle a lot more closely, but I love to see it when we see it. So hopefully, moving this towards a recruitment program is a step towards recognizing the principle that recruitment stands for. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Becky Bender. Never mind, okay. Brad Goodman,
I saw Brett there.
there he is.
I own two small single-family properties that front on Jenkins. Recoupment is a significant power that should only be used when entirely appropriate, which is not the case here. The staff's discussion states recoupment is presented to preserve the right of the city to collect normal arterial roadway costs that would normally be paid by property developers. That is not the case here. This is not a situation where these properties will be subdivided and developed, which may require the road to be widened. They are too small for that. Additionally, many of the improvements in the project are not improvements that would normally be paid for by a developer, such as the 10-foot wide sidewalk, the expansive mediums, etc. I did not ask for it nor want any of these improvements. I know the recoupment is only payable when the property is developed, but a recoupment lien in this case will have detrimental effects on the market value of the property. I or a future owner may decide or may be required because of casualty or whatever to rebuild one or both of this single-family houses. My understanding is that since they are zoned R1, the properties would have to be platted at that point to obtain building permits. Is this scenario considered developed as written in the resolution, which would require payment of the recoupment at that time for me to rebuild the house? I find this very unfair if that is true, because in that scenario, the property will receive no benefit from these improvements whatsoever. I know this is an unusual situation where the property is already developed but unplatted, but I feel it needs to be considered. Another thing, is Jenkins an arterial road? I fear the recoupment amount could be significant. The notice states the cost of acquiring the right-of-way for the project is never deducted from recoupment cost. The cost of acquiring the right-of-way for this project may in and of itself be significant, but it gets worse. The staff's discussion states the cost subject to recoupment includes those construction costs that were not paid for with bond or federal funding. Given the scope of the project, there surely will be items not covered by bonds or grants due to additional items added, inflation, or many other reasons, potentially making the recoupment amount huge, especially in this unusual situation, which there are only a very small portion of the affected land is unplatted and thereby subject to recoupment, rendering any recoupment cost out of proportion with any possible benefit. This recoupment would significantly reduce the market value of the properties for the rest of my life. Until I received this recoupment letter, I was considering relenting and signing off. But if you approve this, I will be forced to revisit every issue, including loss of value caused by the project and the effect of this recoupment on properties.
Thank you, sir. That's all? All right. Any final comments from council regarding this topic? Councilmember Schuler.
I just have a question. Based on, so I don't know who can answer this, but maybe it's Mr. O'Leary or Ms. Hudson. So if the homes that are currently there were hit by a tornado within the 20-year period, would they be required to replat to rebuild their home? Or to create a plat?
That's a Jane thing.
Jane Hudson, Planning Director. No, in the zoning code, there is an allowance for things that are destroyed by a tornado or fire or something like that.
Okay, so if there was something destroyed, the property is destroyed, they would be able to rebuild based on what they had previously, or what is within our ordinance to allow?
So yes, essentially. I mean, we look at things like if it was an odd-shaped lot, maybe it wasn't 5,000 square feet, and they were going to rebuild. There's a chance, not 100%, but we might ask them to go to Board of Adjustment and get a variance, maybe on a setback requirement. We've done that before in some situations, but I think there'd be opportunities for them to get variances.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Holman.
It's my same question.
Oh, excellent. All right. Anything else? All right. The motion on the floor is to adopt the resolution. Council members, you may cast your vote.
Councilmember Montoya.
Yes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion passes by a vote of 8-1. Voting against, Councilmember Ball.
Thank you, ma'am. This is time for miscellaneous comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address City Council. Due to Open Meeting Act regulations, council is not able to participate in discussion during miscellaneous comments. Remarks should be directed to the council as a whole and limited to 3 minutes or less. Do we have anybody signed up for miscellaneous discussion?
Yes, we do, Mayor. We'll start with Stephen Ellis.
Steve Ellis, Ward 4. We are about to find out in just a few minutes how the water rate election went, but I'm glad that we got to this before the answer was out, because I think this is a point that I want to make about Fund 31, which is the water fund in Norman, is well taken no matter what happens. Right now, it looks like, I think I erased or took this down. We're looking at a multi-million-dollar, I think it's something like $69 million deficit going forward after 5 years, a 5-year planning horizon that we have. If the water rate election passes today, over 5 years, that increases the amount of money that we can spend in the water fund as a whole, and what we should be spending on it, I think, is an important issue, as you know. But even if you just decide to do the mathematical amount, that's $33.5 million, according to the city estimates, so 6.7 every year for 5 years. We are still going to be in the hole about, what does that turn out to be? Lots of money, right? So we are going to be in the hole something like, was that 50 million? A little 45 million, something like that, in the hole no matter what we do. Whatever happens today with the water rate election, we haven't gotten to where we need to be. So we're going to need to be thinking about how to price water, and not just price water for residents, but also price water for businesses, and more importantly, pricing water capacity. Norman right now can cover its own water needs if we don't add more people. We have the capacity, in other words. Whether or not we still need extra money for legislative requirements and stuff, I think is actually a really interesting issue that somebody should do some work on. But our plans are bigger than our budget, no matter what happens today. So let's think about this as potentially issue number one going forward. And part of it is going to have to be making sure that we have enough water, and then part of it is paying for that water. And again, I want to commend to you the principle that development needs to pay its own way. We do it on recoupment. The analog for water capacity is thinking about our connection fees. They're not sufficient to cover the amount of new water capacity that we're developing. We know that for sure. So let's think about that going forward. Thanks.
Cynthia Rogers.
Cynthia Rogers, Ward 4. Thank you all. I know this is meeting number 3 today, and you probably all voted. I was voter number 177 in my ward, my voting place, and that was just a little bit before I showed up, so I didn't quite make all the meetings. So I appreciate all your service and attention to what's going on in the city. I'll echo that water is important. We do not have a fiscally or even environmentally sustainable plan for how to protect and use our water that's highly connected with our comprehensive plan, our land use zoning, our fertilizer ordinance, which is, ridiculously weak, does nothing. All those things are things that we should pay attention to. And it's not just about pricing, it's also about how much we use. And there's a lot of literature on how you can encourage folks to use less water. Actually, I've done a few studies with collaboration with the city water utility, even non-pricing strategies we can use. I'd be more than happy to share those. The other thing I wanted to talk about tonight is I still have Shannon Hanchett's situation chewing at me. I still feel like we haven't addressed that situation from the point of the city's responsibility, the police department's policies. And I'm still going to keep asking as often as, I can muster up the energy to do so, that we have those conversations. Those are important conversations. We spoke at the 5 o'clock meeting I think April Dosher made very remarkable comments about, it's a mental health problem that are affecting downtown, people in the community, people going to parks. And we don't have a good response to that. So I had hoped to see in the budget that we would have our emergency response crew. Not seeing that yet. I think people expected that was going to happen, so I hope we can work towards that. Thank you.
Gina Ray. No Gina Ray. Becky Bender.
Becky Bender, Ward 5. At some point, we're all going to die. My friend Clyde, a mentally disturbed and homeless man, came with our family on 4th of July, his first time ever to eat homemade ice cream. During the time we knew him, he went from sleeping in the Andrews Park bathroom floor to his new home in a trailer park. Diabetes ended up taking both of his legs. I took him lemon squares, his favorite treat, days before he died. Please don't ever think that my heart is cold or hard toward people who are facing difficult lives. Now the problem: trash, vandalism, even some people have died senselessly in Norman. We've tried many things to help the situation without success. The first thing we need to do is understand the root cause. John 10:10. The devil comes to kill and to steal and to destroy, but Jesus came that we might have life and have it to the full. The God of the Bible and my Savior Jesus deals with people according to the choices they make, Matthew 25:33. We must do the same. Every choice we make and every action we take requires a consequence. Again, God, who lovingly gave his Son to die for our sins, also gave us an example. When Adam and Eve disobeyed and ate from the tree in the garden, he removed them from their garden home. It was the right thing to do, and even the loving thing to do, to allow a consequence for bad behavior. No one should shame God for saying, "Whatever a man sows, this shall he also reap." And none of us, including our police, should bear shame for giving a consequence for bad behavior. That's their job. City Council, I ask you to continue to support and encourage our police to arrest anyone who commits a crime, whether that person is housed or unhoused, whether that person has money to pay a fine or no money in their pocket. Even if we feel our hands are tied, our voice should not be silent. Please join the chorus with us to speak out against the status quo in our town and do what is necessary to make Norman clean and safe again. Lastly, to the entire town of Norman, including myself. Examples of refreshing times are smiles, flowers, a cold glass of tea, a picnic under a shade tree, the sound of giggles and laughter as the children climb to the top of the slide in the park and whiz to the bottom for the reward. We are losing this in Norman. Acts 3:19. Repent and turn to God so that your sins may be wiped out and times of refreshing may come from the Lord. I do love all of y'all.
Please don't clap.
Paul Austin. I don't know why I said Paul Austin. I'm so sorry. Paul Wilson. Paul
We
Austin.
just changed his name.
Okay. Evan Dunn.
Thank you. Evan Dunn, Ward 7. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, staff. Thank you, everybody watching at home. Last week, I went through a fast, and my diet has been terrible recently. I just love refined sugars. I love ice cream. I love cookies. And eventually it culminates to the point where I just have to shut everything off. And I know I sent many of you a graph that shows the body's response to caloric deficits. And I know it seems to be common knowledge that every time there's a big storm that comes through and we go to the grocery stores because we don't want to, be stuck at home without anything to comfort us, we're entirely capable of going several days without eating. And it has an effect on blood sugar. It has an effect on our insulin production. it has an effect on our productivity by not cooking and washing dishes and eating. The benefits are multiple. And just like the school gardening concept, if we can scale that up to every member in our community, if we can change the consciousness about diet and what we choose to use as fuel, then I think that that's one aspect of us targeting this larger cultural problem and setting a standard for how other communities can follow us. And, you know, it's motivating for me, but it's also depressing because I see myself and I feel like here I am advocating for these ideas, but the culture is still behind us. And I think it behooves all of us to make more of an effort to take the data, to take the graphs, and to help other people understand them, and to be convinced because the data is right there. So I need your help. I need your help. I've invested thousands of dollars in youth thrones and in this permaculture project.
Steve Ladner.
My name's Steve Ladner. I've been in Norman 46 years. We raised 4 kids here. I'm in Ward 4, 40 plus years. I wanted to address homelessness. I've seen dramatic changes in this town, and I have some perspective for living here so long. I recognize people could be homeless from domestic abuse, domestic violence. They could be down on their luck, not heartless. What I want to address are the people that don't want to live in society, don't want to conform to our rules, and they're running amok in this town. These are the people, when I went in Casey's on Lindsay last week and I was greeted with an FU, good morning to you too. The clerk held the door shut in fear of this homeless guy. Or the people that hang out in front of Norman High and taunt the students, or the people who defecate or urinate throughout our town, or bother our business people in downtown. That's what I want to address. And from a personal standpoint, again, we have 4 children, one daughter that lives here. She's 30, she's a single mom. She was washing her car at Robinson and 12th Street, right by the Walden's Cleaners. About a year ago, washing her car, paying attention, a man walked up to her. She thought he worked there, said, "Hey, could I have some quarters? I need to get some change." He just stared at her. Woman came running out of Walden's, chased the man away, told my daughter that he had a knife behind her back. So these are not always innocent situations, and I guess my feelings are, why are we supposed to conform to society, people that don't want to conform to our rules? I don't understand it. I wish the council would do it. My suggestions are several. One, why don't we enforce the laws? When I go to Ardmore for business, I pull in the Valero, I don't get greeted with an FU. I get greeted by a sign that says, "No loitering. City code is this." We have vagrancy rules, we have trespassing, we have loitering. Why are we supposed, as citizens, to put up with this kind of behavior? I don't get it. Been here a long time. It's new to Norman, and it needs to change. Something bad's going to happen. The other thing is, you as a council are supposed to provide a safe atmosphere. That should be your number one priority. I don't see it. I see the constituents you guys want to represent are the homeless, but the regular citizens, our concerns are not really taken into consideration. And we're not a bunch of heartless people, but we deserve a fair shake too. Another thing is, let's support the police. The defunding was a disaster. We have 180 slots up at the police department, 140 servicing policemen. That's 25% below the number. I checked with the FBI statistics. They say 1.8 to 2.5 police officers per 1,000. Even 180, we should actually have 235 at the minimum. We're way understaffed. They're horribly underpaid.
Thank you, sir.
Mary Frances?
Mary Frances, Ward 7. I have taken the tour at the water reclamation site. It's been a few years, but I went on the tour, and when they had just finished up their new renovations and put that, especially the one across the highway there, all you see now is just a little building, but underneath there is this humongous, big as all of our area outside and in here, with rebar, and I thought, okay, they're going to concrete that huge pit, and they did. And now it's just green lawn. You don't know that it's there, but it's down there. And it's the water that has been reclaimed, apparently, that's now being ultraviolet treated and getting rid of a lot of the nasty things that come out of our bodies, especially chemicals, the pills and the medications and et cetera. And that water, then, at the end of the tour, we went in and saw the fish tank. That's the water that's in the fish tank, and the fish are very happy. And I went down, took a friend of mine down that long dirt road to where the water, the reclaimed water, is dumped and then flows into the Canadian River. Huge numbers of fish down there. Absolutely huge numbers of fish. Augmenting Lake Thunderbird would clean Lake Thunderbird. Lake Thunderbird is dirtier, worse than what we're dumping into the Canadian River. And so I really, really want people to understand that augmenting the lake, whenever we need to augment it, would be a wonderful thing. Oh yes, well, I'm thinking about it. 2 p.m., really, to talk about the budget? No. Citizens don't get here at 2 p.m. on a workday. And the budget is their money. Please don't do that again. Okay, and then the other thing is the land out at Griffin, the former mental hospital, or still a mental hospital, I guess, yes. That land, I hope you're working on getting it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Robin Strader?
Ward 5. You may have remembered me from March 28th when I came in here with a water issue that I have with my property. And it seems funny that water seems to be everybody's issue, the water vote today. Everybody wants clean water. I'd like to have dry land. I'd like to not have mosquitoes. But it is what it is. I'm here not only to bring attention to that, but basically maybe an education or to put some things out there, ask some questions. Question number 1 is, do any of the council members actually know what type of city government do we have? You can't answer me, and that's fine, so that I'll go ahead and tell you. We are a council manager government. What does that mean? It means that you, the city council, are the board of directors for the city of Norman. Daryl Pyle is our CEO. That's it, plain and simple. You, the city council, work for the city of Norman as a whole, also while you represent your constituents in each ward. But you have to stop and think, it doesn't just concern your ward, you represent all of Norman. Now, specifically, I want to point out section, Oklahoma statute 11, it's Title 11, subsection, or section 10, subsection 106.4. And that is on the council manager of government. It says that your job is to inquire into the conduct of any officer, department, or agency of the city and investigate municipal affairs or authorities and provide for such inquiries. We have, as a whole, the citizens of Norman have no way of putting that out there for you to investigate. We have no way of filing a formal complaint with anybody. Call me, email me. Well, how do I know that if I do that, that somebody's not going to stop your emails or not going to send you an email telling you not to converse with that person because of whatever their situation is? There needs to be a formal way for the citizens of Norman to file a complaint against a city employee other than the police department or fire department. Those I can go and complain on, but I can't complain about anybody else. And I don't think that's right. Maybe that's something that you as the city council needs to think about and address.
She doesn't want to.
Carlinda?
Mayor, council, I'm reading a firsthand account of the experience of a management at Norman Sprouts. They're choosing to remain anonymous due to any retaliation they might receive. In February, possibly late January, there was a man inside the store. I was watching him. I saw the pattern of these gathering things up to steal. So I was watching closely. He saw me watching, our eyes locked, and you could visibly see him snap. His face was instantly irate anger. He rushed towards me. Oh my gosh, he was literally coming after me. He chased me through the store yelling, "I'm going to kill you," followed by profanities, repeatedly. I rounded a corner and stopped, reaching for my taser. He saw me reach, but he didn't know what for. Is that what stopped him? He was within feet from me and repeated, "I'm going to kill you," followed by profanities. I could smell his breath. Then he left the store. Did this just really happen? What just happened? Officers came but couldn't do anything. He was gone. A few days later, while I was with other management, we walked outside so I could identify the individual who frequently loiters our sidewalk. As soon as he saw me, he lost it. He began yelling and screaming, "I'm going to kill you," followed by profanities. But this is just one account. Many people continuously come in our store and threaten me and my employees. We're being robbed blind right before our eyes. I can't tell you how many people enter our store, gather as much as they can carry, then exit the other door before anyone has a chance to stop them. And what could we do anyway? Sprouts has closed 11 stores this year. We could easily be next due to theft. I requested NPD officers to escort the employees to their cars if any are available. Our employees are afraid, so I walk them the best I can. I'm not allowed to carry a weapon, Sprouts policy, but I have a taser and pepper spray, and I'm not afraid to use it. We have to lock the west doors at 7, and we have to change that to 5. We are literally being robbed blind every single day. Regular thieves come in, and now a few new ones. I have to stop what I'm doing and follow them around the store. 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. is our worst time. We continually experience threatening behavior. One man followed a customer to her car, yelling and screaming at her the entire way. He had been blocking the store entrance. We regularly have individuals come into the store, steal food, take it to the bathroom to eat it, and then defecate in the trash, all over the walls, and all over the floor, just because. Do you know how dangerous that is for us to clean up? We are literally putting our lives at risk just to do so. We've even had to clean up needles out of the bathroom. Do you know how dangerous that is? Most recently, a man came in, watched an employee enter the back, proceeded to grab all he could, put an employee hoodie on, and walked out the door. I have 4 young employees that he passed along the way, and he could have stamped at any moment. Please make Norman safe. Sprouts.
That would be all.
That would be all. Are there
Oh,
any-
wait. No, he,
Brad was speaking before. I don't think he's here.
no, he told me to take his name off.
Is there any more, any other comments or